Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel. Today, we're going to take a look at The Dragon Never Sleeps by Glen Cook, 1988. We have a nice John Berkey cover image here. This is an Amazon print by demand. When it comes to Glen Cook, he is very prolific. The only other Glen Cook book that I read, not a cookbook, but a cook book, is The Black Company. This is a fantasy novel from 1984. You can find a review for it on my channel. This is an epic space opera story set in a galaxy-spanning empire known as Canon Space. It's been thousands of years since humans defeated and subjugated all of the rival species in their part of the galaxy. Canon Space travel happens across the web, a network of hyperspace threads that allows starships to cover thousands of light years in mere hours or days. Canon law in this known area of the galaxy is enforced by enormous guardships. Thousands of years old, they are sentient and are manned by immortal soldiers. They are the pinnacle of human military technological supremacy in this area of the galaxy. They've been unchallenged for thousands of years. That is, until now. There are great corporate powers called houses that are seeking control of areas of this galaxy. One dares to challenge the Guardships. Tregesser. In the ruling house of Tregesser, we follow Simon, Valerina, and Blessed Tregesser. There is a battle for the house of Tregesser itself. The originals of these characters do have clones. These clones serve them in other areas across the web. Every once in a while they sync so that these clones have all the information of each other. The originals are still dominant, but what happens if a clone wants to take the spot of an original? Another character that we follow from the House of Tregesser is Lupo Provic. He's the security advisor for the house. Thousands of years ago, the last real challengers to the Guardships was an ancient race called the Ku, K-U. One of the few remaining Ku is Kez Maefele, an expert in strategy and personal combat. There are plenty of plots in this novel as we have this challenge to Canon Space. Who is using who? Is it the House of Tregesser, or is it the Ku? And then there's the Guardships themselves. They're numbered, and we follow primarily Gemini 7. The captain of the ship is referred to as a war avocat. Previous officers who had this position are now loaded into the computer system of the ship and exist as virtual beings. And then the ship itself is sentient. So in some ways, this ship is like a government, but the war avocat is the one who rules, who makes the decisions. The war avocat for Gemini 7 is Hanover Strait. Nobody ever truly dies on this ship. Officers transcend into virtual reality beings. If a soldier is lost, they are cloned, and their information from the last update is given to them. This is a strange combination of afterlives, of knowing that you will never truly die. Command only wakes the soldiers when they're needed, so their life is constantly about conflict. We follow one of these soldiers, a sergeant named Joe Class. She is part of a planetary assault force. The theme of immortality on these guardships is fascinating. One character asks, why are there no children on the guardships? War Avocat puzzled it out. We're our own replacements. Everyone aboard has been here since Gemini 7 was commissioned. But I know war crew age only on duty, but the others look like they live uninterrupted lives. They do, till they get elected or deified. Most crew just die, then a recorded and edited version gets impressed on a young clone. Turtle did not comprehend the rationale. They live their lives over and over? As the joke goes, over and over till they get it right. Turtle shook his head. It made no sense. He had studied these people all his life. They were predictable, but incomprehensible. And the name, The Dragon Never Sleeps? It refers to the guardships. They are always on duty. They are always staffed with those who staffed them in the beginning. This book is often looking at the theme of tyranny. The War Avocat has an interesting thought on this. War Avocat mused, I wonder if anybody considers what would happen if we got knocked off. Seems obvious that whoever did the job would be somebody nastier than us. I don't expect that aspect garners much thought. War Avocat was right. Who defeated the Guardships would replace the Guardships, almost certainly with a grander tyranny. He stared outside, unseeing, wondering if greed and cruelty and brutality were as much absolutes of life as entropy was an absolute of the physical universe. Did the climb out of the slime write programs no mind could overcome? Very interesting phrasing here. Glen Cook is fun to read. Glen Cook has a very interesting writing style. It's very sparse prose with very short sentences. And yet, the novel itself is very dense. It felt like it could have been a trilogy, but it's compacted into just a few hundred pages. It felt like Cook was writing in a sprint, and I was having trouble just trying to catch up to him, hoping that I would get to understand everything by the middle or even by the end of the novel. And I didn't quite get there. Here's an example of his prose. We're going to look at chapter 80 with Valerina of the House of Tregesser. Valerina grumbled. Everything wanted attention at once. She could not keep up, even with her others helping. Those are her clones. She summoned the most trustworthy from the adjoining office. I just had a call from my father's other. He wants to talk to me about Lupo. Right now. I don't have time. Go down and listen to his latest paranoid fantasy. Not in the right places. Don't mention the Guardship. So here she sends an other of herself to talk to the other of her father. I think this is a good example of Cook's prose and sentence structure. This was a very interesting complex novel. As soon as I had finished it, I thought, should I read this again? It felt like a novel that I had to read a couple more times now that I was starting to get an understanding for the complexity of it. This is the problem I have in rating this one. On first read, I might give it a 6 out of 10. But if I read it a few more times, it might become something like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for me. But on this first reading, I'm not in love with it enough that I want to reread it. I've got plenty of other SF to read. So what do you think? Have you read The Dragon Never Sleeps? How about other Glen Cook? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep reading.